Greetings, how y'all doing today? This topic actually is going to be titled Golems, Clones, Avatars, and Humans. What makes these shells not human? A lot of people don't realize that in this world, there are things that we don't know until we start to search. And when we search, we start to find answers to the questions. And sometimes these go into the forms of mythology, folklore, legends, things like that. But there are people who know that these legends, stories like Frankenstein, are actually derived from real reality things that had happened. Now, I know some of y'all, it might be very hard to understand golems, golems, clones, avatars, and humanoids. These are all shells. They are soulless. They do not come out of a female. They do not have the breath of God. That means they don't have free will. Okay? They are programmed or they learn through experiences, through cause and effect, through determinism, but they can never exhibit free will because free will is a part of soul and they are soulless. So yes, they could be like a plant. They could be like an animal. But you see the thing that's different between us, plants, animals, and all these type of elements or creatures or vegetables or whatever you call them is that we have a higher form of consciousness. Okay. And we also have a certain form of responsibility compared to them. So when we look at a soul person, right? Not just a person have a consciousness, because everything has a consciousness. Atoms have consciousness. But having a soul, the breath of life that the creator talk about, that's a total different thing. Now you might have something that looks similar to you, rather it be brown skin, let's say in this story, black and white. Okay, we're talking black and white people, and when I say that, I mean all black people around the world. I don't care what you call your name, because we're not going to start that tonight, right? That geographic location and carving of Africa, naming stuff names, and now you forget who you are because they whooped the hell out y'all, and we lost our name. So we're not going to go into that, right? But what I want y'all to realize is that, first of all, we must realize something. Many of y'all are not familiar with this. Therefore, hold up your square, okay? Meaning, hold up your box, okay? And what I want you to do is just listen and learn and say nothing while you go into a higher form of knowledge unknown to you. We're going to start with Bobby. We're going to start with Brother Phil Valentine's. And then next, we're going to go to Bobby Hemmett. And then I will give you a recite of a scripture from Songs 139:15. It's 139:15, 16, 17. You can read that on your own, but I'm gonna give you 15 first. I was gonna do 16, but I like 15. Uh Also, we're gonna go into a person who probably was a Rosicrucianer, but I'm not gonna say that all the way. Is a person named Renan Discasti, okay, who talks about these Gomans. And we're going to go into some of the people that actually created golems. So golems are actually the mysticism part that have to do with enchanting. It's like getting a certain form of clay, dirt, and it's basically enchanting a spiritualness of words into a cavern of a body. So it's kind of like, as a man thinketh, so shall it be. So it's kind of like manifesting a a animate object that can feature like a human. Okay, that's where they get the famous story Frankenstein and come from plague, come from Bohemia. Okay, so there's a lot of people that have done some serious modifications, and like people don't understand it's like an innovation, right? It just come from the top of your head, right? And you use your hands and you create whatever you want. A thought, you could think something, and as you walking, it appear right there. Like you be like, oh snap, look at that. I can't believe this. Right? So this is how the world, the universe answer our thoughts, our consciousness, you know. So I'ma let Phil Valentine's go into this a little bit, and then I'ma go into, I'ma get into the meat and potatoes. I got a little incense burning. Let me do Phil first, and then I'll do Bobby Hemmett.
He did not have that. He came into the world thinking that he had to conquer because he came from a world where his survival was based on conquest. Oh, you said he is physically and spiritually and mentally different from African? Completely in the fact that his whole calcified view of the world, the fact that his pineal, the fact that his lack of melanin, the fact that he has calcification around a component of the brain that was necessary for intercommunication with nature. If that's calcified, even if he did get information coming through that instrument, it would still have been distorted based on the calcification. And you remember, calcium is an electrical conductor. But if the calcium is not structured in a proper crystalline matrix and lattice, you get a distorted picture of everything. So use of calcium was overbearing because the calcium shut down his pineal gland. His skin no longer had any form of color to be able to pick up light and to translate light as information. Mm-hmm. So if you can't pick up light from the very source of life, which is the sun, and translate that into the inspiration that would come from light codes, then you are now functioning from pure instinct, from pure reptilian brain perception. Mm-hmm. He now takes that and he forms a culture around that reptilian mentality. Mm-hmm. And he is now struck out because some news have come to him that there are worlds and lands beyond him. I don't understand. You think about this. How could you look up at a full moon and believe that you live on a flat earth?
Right. How could you? So that right there, he just basically, really, he just basically summoned up um Reno Discassius. Okay, basically he just summoned him up because, okay, Reno Discassius. Let me see if I can flip this on the other side. I don't know why it doesn't do that. But um Rennie Descasius, I guess that's how you say it, Descates. Don't quote me, right? Okay, when you look him up, okay, he said a golem does not have the seat of the throne, right? Do you know what the seat of the throne is? I mean, people that's in my group and Facebook, they know the seat of the throne. because I talked about it he does it in the Calstrium. I talked about the consciousness. I talk about the spear of destiny. I talk about the eight lobes and the two hemispheres. So my group should know that I'm talking about the pineal gland, which is the pine cone. So as he said, if that is calcified around it, right? That means that he this being doesn't have a soul. Like it cannot conduct or receive a higher form of consciousness where it understands actually the repercussion of what it does. It doesn't do it. You understand? So it's like beating a dead horse. It's no matter what you think, because what you're doing is you're projecting into the golem. Okay, and the golem only is going to react to how you make it feel. This is the thing about Frankenstein. So when you go into Frankenstein, and oh my gosh, you go into this book right here. Where do I got it? Where is it? Oh my gosh. Um. Okay, you go into this book right here. Okay, the Gnostics. Okay, it goes into uh it goes into, because you got to think about this thing doesn't have, okay, when you have a calcified pineal gland, right? uh the whole thing about a gland is incomplete substance. When you look it up, it's a recessive genetic creation. And um and at the end of the day, it denies free will because it doesn't know what free will is. You understand? It doesn't know that the actions that it does affects other people because it doesn't care. You understand? So this really is what the Caucasian race is, to be honest. And there are, of course, now there are golems, what I call takeovers, and black people as well. And that's what they're trying to do to many of us. This is what it's called dummy down. So dummy down is the science of creating the melanin people just like them. So if they were created for a reason to elevate our consciousness, because we thought we was bad as shit, so it kind of like we knew they were coming, but some of our ancestors must have did some devious shit. It's two stories. Okay, one of the stories is that Imhotep, right? Imhotep is actually what the Greek calls epilepticus, or whatever his name is with an A. That they took that epilepticus code for the doctors and stuff like that, right? Okay, now Imhotep was in a high occult secret group, and I believe that they also was messing with creating golems to build like the pyramids, which that, or to build anything or to do anything for them. It's like a robot, to be honest. That's what a golem is. A golem is a robot, a clone, a humanoid, a avatar. That all comes out of the mysticism. Okay, and as many stories that talk about this, how the creator fashioned us out of clay. You got in Kemet science or Egypt, whatever. You have what is called the Kum, who's the will potter who created humans, with Atum and everything like that from the waters of boom, boom, boom. And we came into them. Then we got a breath. See, now the breath is spirit, right? They don't have that. They don't. They even like they mimic us, because you teach them, they become smarter. You know, The more you teach them, the smarter they get, because they live in a reptilian brain. So that's up their alley, materialistic. Like, oh, remember something. They remember it, but they don't comprehend what they're doing. This is the problem that's going on in the world right now. What are we dealing with? We're dealing with beings that have been created for some purpose. I'm talking about the Caucasian race. And I'm not into racism. Okay? It's just that's how they're made. It's like a plant. It's always going to be a plant. You know, and like that's the thing about humans. Like humans go through all the lives, and they could take lives, you know, and they eat consciousness of plants and animals and fish and birds and all of that, right? So, I mean, when you think about it, they don't have free will because they're about cause and effect. You know, it's just like looking at that trial and, the girl got killed, but they don't understand no money can bring back a life. So to them, they think, what the hell? Y'all got justice. You got $12 million. You can hear a Gomelin because a Gomelin doesn't have free will. It's like it doesn't, like when the cops went in there, they went in there to kill. Okay, that's a Gomelin. It doesn't have a consciousness like, yo, we have so many different equipment that we can use. We don't have to shoot nobody in here to death. You understand? Like when they come to America, a Goomlin is this is what the Caucasians are. They Goomlins. They really are. Okay. If you hear some of them, they will look at you depending on they think your color of your skin, that black people came from Africa when black people was right here in America before they even came. Why do you think they call them Indians? Now, Indians look like who? Yeah, okay. Say no more, right? Say no more. Because what you're dealing with is you're dealing with a person whose pineal gland is calcified. That's the seat of the soul. So they don't have a soul. I want you to understand this. It's like a plant. Do you understand, like a plant feels good because we feel good? It feels bad and it would shrivel because we feel bad. The water, we feel good. The water molecules feel good. So it's a lot of things that work that. Now, if you notice, when the Gomelins came, everything started dying. When the white people start spreading through the world, all of a sudden, animals were extinct. Why is that? Because they do not have a soul. They only operate on reptilian brain. That's why they talk about the Anunnakis. Because when you think about the story of the Anunnakis created a Gomelin too. You could say a Gomelin clone. Go one up, right? And they took the black woman, all right, cells, her egg, and they took this Homo erectus, now you're going with Charles Darwin, and you genetically create the Homo sapien with the Anunnaki bloodline, which is reptilian. So if the reptilians, the Anunnakis are actually bad, because the story goes they created beings to do slavery. The creator didn't create us like that. There's no story in there that the creator, no story from the ancients that the creator created us to be slaves. Not at all. Not at all. We were breatharians. We didn't even eat food at one time. We took in the sun and took in water, and that was it. And when we wanted to have children, right? The woman and the man did like this twin flame soul bonding, and it was a mixture of energy, and we created out in her. She creates the children, known as immaculate conception. Yeah, women used to do that a long time ago. We're talking about when the earth was more pure and people were more pure because they was closer to the source of which where we all come from, which some people call it the creator, Allah, whatever, right? It doesn't matter, right? In some cases, people say, oh, Yahweh and all of this is Anunnakis or whatever. Listen, it's the sun book, right? Helios Biblos. The Bible is the sun book. Okay, so we are energetic beings that have a soul. You understand? We're not like a star or a rock or a lizard, or you understand what I'm saying? We have elevations. We go through dimensions. Those things that you see, they don't go through dimensions. They don't, like, okay, think about it. We mutate, right? But we don't only mutate, we go through dimensions. They don't go through dimensions. Like the when you look at the European, according to the origin of species, according to Charles Darwin, he tells us that they come from primates. We don't believe that story. We don't. Because we know we did not come from apes. We know that. And a long time ago, like, you know, you could tell that they have to be golems because we knew we were trading with people from here. Like we was trading with people all around the world that were all brown skin. No matter where you went around the world was brown skin. See, you got to look at this. The European man, right, who called himself a Homo sapien, right? He, uh, he, uh, he basically, right? He basically went around the world and impregnate people. So now think about that one, right? Hold on. I'm gonna fix this, y'all. Okay. I have to keep this on the charger. Just think about that, right? So you have a golem seed in your genetic code, right? So you just heard Phil talk about it. I broke it down a little bit more so you understand why they don't understand us because they don't have free will. Like do your research. In philosophy, they talk about there is no free will. So in their eyes, it's only cause and effect. Like the only thing they understand is war and death. That's it. That's all they understand. Like even though they tried to be religious or spiritual, they did that to control because that's how they are. Like they must control the opposition at all costs. So they were, if you go by the Anunnakis, right? There was one called Yahweh, I guess, right? So he created beings to kill off the children of the sun, which is us, and to destroy the earth, which is what they doing, trying to do, right? This is a trap for them suckers. They ain't going nowhere. Okay, so they ain't going nowhere, and they're not going to be here. Like, no. If the earth gets messed up, they're going to stay here. Watch, they will resonate in another form right with the bullshit they created. Okay, so don't get caught up with them. The truth be told, we're wasting time talking to a soulless being who do not understand life, love, peace, family, joy. They don't know nothing about Nuar or Tini Mahata, or Singagut or Kum or Obatala, or Vera Chocha, Chocha. They don't know nothing about these stories because they are soulless. And wherever they went, it was death and destruction that never been seen around the whole world. Seriously, that's a Golems. So you're dealing with a Golems, and the reason why he's trying to create AI and robots and androids and humanoids and stuff like that is because this is their final chance to kill us off with Golems on the higher level of what we call avatars or machineries. Like Terminators, if you watch them creating these robots with facial recognition and all of this, right? And they've been trying to kill us. What's the best thing that they can do, right? They could figure they could send these beings out to kill all black people on the planet. Okay? And then the world would be a better place. See, we don't think that way because we have a soul. See, but we have to realize we're dealing with a Golems, something that was created not out of creation per se. It doesn't have a spirit, it doesn't have a soul. It's like a plant, it has a consciousness. That's where you can't get food. You can get food because it has a consciousness. Atoms have consciousness. So, because it's created out of a substance, it's really incomplete. And when you get a clone, it's just embryonic. A clone is so okay. So let me get in. A clone is when you take a somatic cell, right, from one person, and you take that cell and you subject that into you transfer that into a phenomenon or an egg cell, right? Okay. And basically it grows, develop, you throw hormones in there, and it's bam, it's like the sheep, right? We were once men, remember that movie? Okay, that's all about cloning, that's all about DNA. That's exactly what they want, because they want soulless people just to obey them. So this is where it gets really retarded, because you're dealing with someone who doesn't understand what they're doing. You understand? That's a clone. A humanoid is no doubt a machinery. Now they got silicone thanks to the reconstruction and all of these plastic surgery and stuff they've done, especially on melanin people. Rather, they call themselves Spanish and not Spanish people, or melanin. They'd be darker than us, and some of them be like, I'm not you. So what is that? That's a Golems. That is a Golems itself. Yeah, it might appear, that might be a black person, appear like it's got a soul. That means it's been taken over by a certain spirit, because it doesn't register that it's black. It's the same as us. And I have a lot of native in my background, so I already know. Like, I just call myself black, you know, because I already know they look at all of us. We look like the covenant of the earth, right? Dirt, right? Cosmos and all of that, right? We're energetic beings for real, right? But we have this covenant of the earth body, and they're mad at that because they incomplete. Like, they know they come from the earth, like they come from the earth too, but they incomplete. Do you understand? They're recessive. So, that's that. So the Jewish people and their mysticism, because I study a lot of Kabbalah, right? So there was a guy named Rabbi Low, Low, and with two dots up on top. He was from Plague, Bohemia, right? This is the famous Gomelan that they created, right? Uh, at that time, it was Emperor Ruolf II, who also was a mystic. Also was, I believe, he was into what is called uh, Gnostic Christianity, and he was astrologist and all of that. So how it goes is that Rabbi Low and them performed this because they were tired of this is what happens, and it probably still happens today. During the Passover, they kill children for the blood, called a blood libel. That goes back into the study of Moloch, okay? Or Moloch is Marduk from the Anunnakis on their side. What's the killing of children, sacrificing their blood for the gods? Seriously. All right. So they created this Golems to protect that from happening. That's where you get also the Frankenstein story. Like I tell people, I'm like, this stuff be real. This is above y'all understanding. You have to read up on it, and then you have to be open. Then you have to look, just like I did. I broke it down. I went from mysticism, which is real, folklores and all that. I remember back in the days before it was even known. We used to say this so long a time ago. This is called parables or allegorical. Good night, don't let the bed bugs bite. We didn't know about bed bugs back in the days, but that's exactly what we said. And you couldn't tell nobody that until now. Like everybody knows what a bed bug is. But we've been saying that shit way back. You understand? Because we go into the fourth, fifth, sixth, seven, eight dimensions. Okay, we're not stuck on the third dimension or the fourth brain circuit. Like the highest I think the Homo sapien person could go is, I don't even know if they could go to the fourth brain circuitry, to be honest. And what they tried to do is make their scientists like special, and we all know behind their scientists is a black person. Okay? So we already know they're a bunch of, Golems. I can't even call them a liar no more because they are created an inferior substance. And because of that, they're jealous of that. So they're trying to do everything to disrupt, kill, and basically get rid of us. Like once and for all, right? Like they're ready to create World War III. Why World War III have to happen? Like, for instance, everything on this planet is free. Why are we paying for anything? I want you to think about that because you're dealing with a Gomelan. He doesn't understand that everything on this earth is free. Even Nikola Tesla and J.P. Morgan, why are you charging people for things and energy is free? That's logic. They want to charge people because Nikola Tesla, he didn't know how evil those people were because of the black art magic that they deal with in the demons or whatever spirit, the Atakum, I keep it like that took over them. There's a lot of people who have their what you call a black heart. A lot of people. Black hearts are also like what you heard of called the black-eyed children. Okay, so it's very sinister. It's a very sinister person. You can tell them. Uh, they like to say these are narcissists, psychopaths, and all of that, right? Exactly, because that's a black heart person. Okay, a manipulator and everything, right? Like white people in America know that they took the land from Indians. Now think about this. The Jesus Christ that they claim to serve and worship never did nothing like they are doing. So you already know they are false teachers, false prophets, false this, false that, and they got the book of they got the sun book, and they're not the children of the sun. Get the bones out of here, y'all. That right there just lets you know something. So what are you dealing with? You're dealing with a being that was here to create destruction. And all they know about is pleasure. So it's fun and pleasure for them. This is hell, y'all. So they want us to go down with them. I'm not going with them. Y'all can have your fun and go down with them, but I'm not going down with these golems. Okay? I'm gonna be like Nikola Tesla on this one. I don't understand why y'all have to charge stuff. And once we realize, why are we paying for stuff anyway? Everything is free. Like, who made this system up? They did. They Golems, and how did they do it? Well, they struck the fear of God in us, basically. And then they call us animals, uncivilized. Well, gee whiz, according to a race check, like check facts, right? Who created the most dangerous and atrocious shit on the planet Earth? European people. Fact check, right? Okay, so an avatar goes into the third dimensional project. It's electrical stimuli. Um, and it could get better. It could go into 3D printing. You got the new thing called Neon, right, by Samsung, that's creating a live projectory. Also, you have the hologram projectory avatars coming out. So that's going to work with your electrical component of electromagnetic combination of what you feel and how you feel, right? Okay, so that's basically it. So the last person I'm gonna get to is Bobby Hemmett.
This particular book, the Gnostic, Christian actually quotes Mary Shelley. And Mary Shelley in the book, Man the Monster, chapter 2 of Mary Shelley's novel Frankenstein, is written when Blake was 59. Now Blake is a philosopher also. William Blake is a philosopher also. When Blake was 59 and said, we were in of the beginnings of Victor Frankenstein's quest to obtain powers of God. Victor confessed that during the trip to Fanon, a town near the French Alps, situated in the shores of Lake Lenon, and he goes into this thing where, as she's quoting what Victor Frankenstein is inspired of, what he is actually trying to attempt, and in her novel appears the word of the human Asclepius, and Asclepius is Imhotep. It's the Greek form of Imhotep. And it's a Greek, and this is the same God that all physicians swear to with the Hippocratic oath. Imhotep, which is also given a remnant of an ancient Egyptian school of mysticism that in actuality Victor Frankenstein, although a fictional character, is basically a retelling of the same old story of a person that creates his own human. So we're talking about Mary Shelley here. Understanding in these certain occult societies that was springing up all around Europe at the time. And these occult societies that was custodians of different works like your Rosicrucians, who literally had this particular information of the creation of the European left behind by the Moors in Europe at the University of Salamanca and 16 other universities in Europe. They had all of these particular texts. We'll go into some of these texts in a few minutes. But Mary Shelley mentions Asclepius or Imhotep, which is alluding to an ancient arcane school of knowledge. This is very key. This is very key. This is in the book, Cliff Tobias' book, page 133 of his book called The Gnostics, where he mentions that, and it's in Mary Shelley's Frankenstein book. the theory that the only hard-nosed evidence that we have is archaeological and anthropological. Which in actuality, we don't have to theorize on this. We actually have the ancient people out of their own mouths giving this particular information. We're going to go through some of this particular stuff. Now, the first thing we need to do, because we're talking about immigrant humans, a hybrid species.
Hybrids.
The first thing we need to do is I'll give a rendition of this, on what actually went down. Now, in this book, Hermetica, by Walter Scott.
Oh, yeah.
It's interesting that this book is not hard to find, but this book is being printed. It's just that if you go to the Rosicrucian Library out in California, they still sell this book. But all of a sudden, I noticed when I started really pumping this book, it became harder and harder to find. If you've noticed, a lot of times, certain books that I talked about, just mysteriously, it became harder and harder to find. And I'm not necessarily saying that in actuality that I'm ego tripping. Literally, people around the country, books that was plentiful until I started talking about them over and over again, this became harder and harder to find. But nevertheless, we have several texts. But this one I think is the one that is quintessential to what we're talking about here. Because in this particular book, on one of the pages, and Lord knows the book this thick with about 530, 545 pages. To close the book and lose the damn page means you got a labor. Because the book doesn't have an index, because it's taken from ancient fragments. And somehow the book got closed on the doggone page, but I will quote it to you, because all I need to do is just show you the book. Walter Scott's Hermetica, where the Egyptians, or the Kemites, say that their biggest problem was to create another man. That's what the Egyptian says, documented in this particular book. That our biggest problem was to create another man. Right off the Hermetic text, and now to explain something about the Hermetic text comes from is the Greek word for Tahuti. The wisdom of Tahuti is the oldest science and some of the oldest sciences in the world that go all the way back, reach all the way back to Atlantis. I know that that's galactic suicide for most people in the collegiate world, but let's just understand that the Greek sage, that the Greek solid said that it was an Egyptian sage that talked about Atlantis. Now, Dr. Ben said that he did admit that this Greek sage, because I got the same text, talked about this Greek philosopher talked about how an Egyptian sage or a high priest told him about Atlantis. He did admit that. But he just said we just don't have enough evidence on it. But there's tons of evidence on this particular information. It's just that it's found in ancient.
So basically, what y'all listening to, what y'all hearing, is that the Homo sapien, okay, all right, before Europeans became Homo sapiens, they were Homo erectus, okay? So to come to that stage, to get up to that stage, right, that's a big jump, okay? And Homo sapien means wise one, okay? That's what the word really means, okay? So to jump up that stage, that's where you could go with the Anunnaki. See, they trying to do something. You could go with the Anunnaki story, which I have, which I vision, I dream, I went out in the astral world, and I'm good in doing this. And I went out in the astral world and I saw them creating the Caucasian man, which was from the Homo erectus to the Homo sapien. This is why the LGBT is coming. It's going to come out after they do the child uh pedophilia to be a normal thing, just like LGBT is, right? You got to understand, all these people with these sexual deviant behavior has been turned out. Okay. um it's a lot of things that could do that. It's like, people staying in the ghetto, people staying as a gang members, their whole family gang members, like their whole families police officers or soldiers or everything like that, or doctors or whatever, right? So you can genetically lock down somebody's consciousness to only think one way, like a golem. Okay, this is the very thing that you hear about, like Sigma Floyd and Carl Jung and all of these people and others, Otto and all of them talk about, and other philosophers, great philosophers. Oh, Austria, Hungarian Empire have some of the wonderful philosophers when you want to go in that realm. Okay, but the Caucasian, when he was a Homo erectus, what my vision was the Anunnakis of these aliens, demons, wherever the hell they are, with some priests and a black woman, took the Homo erectus, took the black woman's egg